2, 3, 4, get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great.
Hello and welcome to Between Sessions, a health and fitness podcast powered by the one and only EFM Health Clubs in Australia. We have a guest today, which I will let Wade introduce in a second, but I'll introduce Mike Jewson first from EFM Health Club in Underdale, the most flexible man in EFM.
Good morning, everyone. How are you all?
Excellent. How's the circus training going, Mike?
Yeah, good. I did have a week off last week. I was in Tasmania, as you know, but still going well, improving on my side splits and tumbles and stuff. We did some two-stack work a few weeks ago, which is standing on each other's shoulders and doing some crazy stuff up there. It's been pretty fun. It's been very challenging, but it's good fun.
Oh, awesome. And as always, the OG from Oyen, Wade Brady, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Justin. Hello, gentlemen.
Wade,
I don't do circus. I do some circuit training. I don't do circus training. Yeah.
How's your tumbling going?
Tumbling.
you've got kids,
Every now and
Wade.
again,
You
I
do some
tumble on a
circus
weekend.
training.
Yeah.
All
Coming home
going
from the
well.
pub.
All going
All right,
well.
so Wade, do you want to introduce our
Kieran?
special guest?
Yeah, sure. So Kieran's a friend of a friend. What struck me about Kieran, he's an osteopath, and I like his approach to his work and his open-mindedness. So I thought it'd be a really good one to get on and ask a few questions too around what he does and how's his industry compared to the other ones that sit beside and overlap, sort of thing. So so here's Kieran he's in Melbourne. I'm not even sure what suburb you're in Kieran, but I guess tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been an osteo, and we had a quick chat on the phone yesterday where you are with your training. You sound pretty qualified, maybe a little bit more than us. So that's why we get people like you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I grew up in Bright in northeast Victoria. I'd never heard of osteo when I finished high school, and then I moved down to Melbourne and lived on campus, and the fella I moved in with was studying osteo. And I thought the more I learnt about it, the more I thought I could probably do that. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, maybe physio, maybe something else, and osteo is pretty well aligned with that kind of thing. Yeah. So I got into that and studied that, and then I've been an osteo for 5 years, treating in private practices throughout Melbourne. I've had a few stints up in the country. I even did 4 months up in Mackay as a bit of a maternity leave cover. So I've kind of treated everyone from corporate accountants, CEOs, CFOs, all the way to an underground coal miner. And that's kind of led me down the path of pain management. So at the moment, I've got a graduate diploma in graduate diploma in science and medicine pain management, and I'm 2 units away from the masters. So at the end of the year, I'll have a master's of pain management essentially. So that's that's kind of changed the way I talk to people, the way I speak about pain, how I treat pain, away from probably something a bit more traditional, like a biomechanical model where we're finding sore things, making them less sore, treating the tissues, to treating people more as a whole. Well, I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah. What were you doing at uni when you started?
I did a year and a half of biomedical science, and then I was a barista for 6 months, and then got into osteo. best six months of my life.
Yeah.
Flirting with customers, making coffee, getting free coffee. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
That was one of my first
you
jobs.
to be a lawyer too, I think.
Yeah.
So tell us, what exactly is an osteopath, Kieran? I'm sure there's confusion out there, like physio, chiro, osteopath. No, I reckon the average person has no idea.
Yeah, it's a probably the most common question I get, apart from why is my back hurting? What is an osteo? I think I kind of explained it to Wade last night, but it's back in the day, let's say 20, 30 years ago, there was a clear distinction, I think, between our treatment philosophies. So, physio, chiro, and osteo are probably the three that get compared the most. And back in the day, we had really key differences around why we were doing something and what it was doing to the body. So, for example, chiropractors, a lot of their practice, not everyone, I'm going to make some assumptions here, or some, what do you call it? Generalizations. Yeah. Chiros generally were based on the theory that they could manipulate the nervous system through manipulating the spine, and that would be able to treat a lot of conditions. Physios traditionally did lots of musculoskeletal physios did lots of rehab and not a lot of manual therapy. Big generalization there. And then I would say that osteos were somewhere between that. But we had these 4 key tenets that osteos seem to treat by. But I think as evidence progresses, I would hope that all manual therapists, you could call it osteo, chiro, physio, myo, kinesiologist, I don't know, it goes on and on, Chinese medicine, all those manual therapists, anyone that uses their hands to help people, you'd hope as the evidence progresses and more evidence is coming out, we all follow the evidence, become closer and closer. So I think that there are physios that treat like how I treat. There are osteos that treat like how I treat. I'm sure there's chiros and myos that treat similar to the way I treat. So I think that the discipline of how you train is becoming less important as long as we're all following evidence. I think where it varies is when people get caught down a route of, say, for an osteo to be something like a cranial sacral therapist, which is like a branch of osteo that is really gentle and more based around different theories that don't seem to stack up into empirical evidence. So I don't do it, but there are people that do it and people who love it. I just think that as we progress with evidence, we should be following the same kind of treatment philosophies. So I know that's a long-winded answer as to what is an osteo, but there's no real straight answer there anymore, I don't think.
Yeah.
I think the first question from that to me is, I wonder what makes people choose who they go and see. I guess it's what their doctor tells them to go and see, but how does their doctor choose which one? Maybe they send them to their mate or something, but
I think I would say it's definitely not what you know, it's who you know, right? So we talk about it quite a lot. We're trying to get out, when we're not seeing clients, we're doing business development, right? I'm sure you guys do it too, trying to get your name out there. We're trying to meet up with doctors. We're trying to meet up with other like personal trainers or other health professionals, trying to say, hey, this is what we do. Let me buy you lunch. Maybe they'll go, oh man, this person is presented with something that I don't quite know enough about, but I know there's Kieran down the road. I'll send him that way. That's kind of like, it's what you know, isn't it? It's not because I'm an osteo, or it's rarely because I'm an osteo that people come and see me. It's more like, hey, my friend's mum's dog's second cousin said you're good. Come and see me.
It's trust. It's trust, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, for sure. It's huge. That's the biggest part. Word of mouth is regularly the biggest way you get your referrals. Like you treat someone and then they send you their mum. Their mum sends their friend who they have coffee with. All that stuff.
So would you say it's more so from friends and family rather than doctors prescribing it, saying go to an osteo?
Yeah, definitely. I think the osteo's biggest trouble is that their standing in the public sphere of health is not as strong as physio. I know I've got mates that are physios and they get so many referrals from GPs with care plans or even just go and see a physio for this. And there's not really a condition that a physio can treat that an osteo can't. It's just that osteos have been lumped in with chiropractors and maybe let's call it more alternative medicine. And they don't seem to get that GP buy-in. There's a few GPs around the areas that love osteos. But that's only because they've met someone that did a good job on one of their clients, and it's not because osteos are better or anything.
Well, they've had a good experience themselves. Then you buy in, of course.
Yeah, that's right.
So osteos are suffering from publicity issues, a bit like exercise in some ways. Like it's hard to sell.
Big time, yeah. Just like the narrative around running is bad for your knees, where there's no evidence for that, unless you're an ultra marathon runner running 250 Ks a week. People go, I don't want to run, it's bad for my knees, or I don't want to squat, it's bad for your knees, when all the evidence is suggesting otherwise, but the kind of public narrative is that it's bad. Same with osteos or whatever.
Yeah. So, all right. So I've got a sore back. someone refers me to you, Kieran, what's the process for people that have maybe been to a physio or a chiro, haven't been an osteopath? Like, what would happen, like in terms of assessment and your treatment?
Yeah. So so our appointments go for 45 minutes to an hour, those initials, and we'd take a big history. I talk to you a lot about history of pain. Even so, this presentation, this flare up that you're having, we talk about that. We make sure you're not dying. So red flag, any medical red flags that we have to refer for, we clear them first. And then we'll talk about a general medical history. So your general health, your exercise levels, sleep, stress, diet, kind of get a good overall idea around your general health, medications, anything like that. And then what I'd do, let's say sore low back, I'd take you through a movement screen. We'll see how irritable your low back is, whether there's a range of motion that is particularly, I think the scientific term is pissed off or not. And you can kind of screen through your low back, your hips, your knees, your ankles, all of that, upper back. You kind of do a whole body screen and see where the irritable movement is. And then we'll do orthopedic testing. So things that may narrow down on specific structures or may rule in or out anything more sinister that is worth a referral. And then we just use hands-on therapy, treatment, massage, exercise, movement, education to try and give you an idea of how long it's going to take, what I think's going on, what's contributing to it, what you can do at home, what I can offer you, and yeah, the kind of path forward. Because I think that when people are in pain, it's the fear that is really scary. Like, oh, I've got a sore low back. I can't even pick up a coffee cup. How am I going to pick up my kid? How am I going to do the washing? How am I going to go shopping? I'm not going to be able to sit in a chair and do my job. They're the things that people worry about. It's less about it's my L5-S1 disc bulging to the left. It's more about like, oh shit, I'm not going to be able to pick up my kid. You know what I mean? Like that's the real issue. Yeah. That's the emotional connection to their pain.
Yeah.
That and you guys would see, I'm sure, in the fitness industry, people come in and they don't go, oh, rarely. Oh, it's my SIJ to the left that's pissed off. They're like, man, my back's so sore, I can't even pick up my kid. It's like, okay, well, let's work with that. That's kind of the more emotional, important part of it.
Yeah.
And that diagnosis, just yesterday in our brief chat, just that, how did you word that, the diagnosis, how it can
I
work
think
for or against people?
Yeah. I think that a diagnosis is sometimes important. If they've got a medical red flag, it's important to not miss those things. But if you've screened them and they're not presenting with any red flags and you think they're safe, this is probably the controversial part that you said. Like, I don't think that a diagnosis is that important, because if it's their L5-S1 disc, or if it's their L4, L5, or L3, or it's their L5 facet joint, or whatever it is that's going on in their back, that can kind of trap them into that diagnosis. And then you would have seen it, they come in and see you and they go, oh, my L5-S1 disc is acting up. But really, it's what's acting up is they can't pick up their kid, like I said. Like, we're not 100% sure. We don't have MRI vision, and even if we did, MRI is a poor indication of someone's clinical picture. So people can either get trapped with this diagnosis and they're like, oh no, I can't do anything because I have an L5-S1 disc bulge. And it goes the other way too. Some people can be really freed by their diagnosis. I've been searching for something that's going on, and now it's been confirmed with imaging or treatment or whatever. And that'll allow me to get back to life because now I know how to treat it. So it kind of goes either way. I was saying to Wade yesterday, like, some people are really freed by a diagnosis. Some people get really trapped, and it's just about their personality traits and their previous history and all this other stuff that indicates that, but it's too hard to know. So I try not to give a specific diagnosis. Like, my diagnosis for someone who has a sore low back is I can't pick up my kid's low back pain. I know I keep going back to that, but that's like a better diagnosis, I think, because it gives them a bit more agency to try things, I think. So as long as they're not dying, we can kind of work with movement.
To back up this, what you've just said there, I don't know, this is a bit of a test to how well you know your Instagram posts. I think it was the most recent one. It was a study on soccer players where There was a soccer player with I think it was hip pain, which you've suffered from. And it was like what do you call it, an impingement.
Yeah.
And then they've done scans on all the soccer players, and like a third of them have that same impingement, but a third of them aren't injured. And
Yeah.
I don't know, you can expand. You remember the post I'm referring to?
Yeah, I think so. I seem to post a bit about that kind of stuff, but
Yeah.
I mean, regardless of that exact post, there's lots of incidences in that where, like I said, the MRI report or the imaging report doesn't match the clinical picture. One in particular is there's one they did on low back. I'm going to make up some figures here. I can't remember the exact figures. I'm going to say they got 1,000 people off the street who had never had low back pain, and they scanned their low back, they MRI'd their low back, and the theory was, well, if you've never had low back pain, you will have a perfectly healthy spine. So no findings on the MRI. And time after time, people kept coming back with findings of disc bulges or disc joint degeneration or facet joint arthropathies or whatever. Like, it just goes on and on, all these findings in the scan. And that kind of really made people question, okay, well, if people are having this with pain, but they're also having this without pain, there must be some other thing going on with pain that is causing some people to have it and some people to not have it. So it's nowhere near as simple as you have 5 out of 10 damage, so you have 5 out of 10 pain. Yeah. Which is super, super freeing for people, I think, because they get this report back. Let's say they're 40 and you have a 40% chance of having a disc bulge or multiple, and they've got a sore low back. They get this scan back and the report's this long, and then all of a sudden they're trapped in this fear of hurting their back, and their back feels super fragile. So
it's powerful.
They can almost use it as an excuse, and it can fall into that. Well, now I can't do anything. Like you said, I can't squat. You talk about in one of your posts about dose. You know, if you're squatting 100 times every day for, you know, silly amounts of volume of something, it's going to be, you know, bad for you. But you're doing it in small bursts, it's going to be okay. But a lot of people will use that as an excuse of, I can't do anything.
Yeah,
can't squat, can't move, can't pick up the kids, can't drive.
Yeah, for sure. Or like, dose is a really good conversation. Like, the dose is the poison. It's not the movement or whatever it is. So like, a lot of the time people come in and tell me they can't run, but it's because they used to run 10Ks when they were 20 and now they're 40 and they haven't run for 20 years, and they go and run 10Ks and hurt themselves, and they say running's bad for me. It's more about the dose. Like, well, you know, Justin just had a drink of water. If he doesn't drink any water, he dies of dehydration. If he drinks too much water, he might drown or something like that. Like, you get hurt by drinking too much water. That doesn't mean water's dangerous. It's just the dose is important.
Yeah.
Or like,
the best way, I think, what stuck out with me with that post was, you said, if we do a box jump, or if we jump off of a box on the gym floor, you know, it's not going to be too bad. Knees, you know, depending who you are, you do that off a 10-story building, it's going to be a different story. So dosage was really, really important. That was the best one for me, I thought.
That's a good one. That's a good one for sure. I think it's such a nice way to think about it. It's like, there's no dangerous, I would argue, there is no dangerous movement. It's just a movement that we're not prepared for, and that the dose is too high. And then pain is the output.
Yeah. What are your more common, like, I guess, treatments for people? What are the most common complaints? So back sounds like one of them. What else do you get?
Yeah, low back and neck are the two main complaints. Yeah, neck and upper back and shoulders, kind of tension, posture. They call it postural related stuff. Yeah, which is a whole nother wormhole we can go down with posture. But if you want to, I don't mind. I think
because most people, like, we're sitting at a computer right now, like, and luckily we're not typing anything. People listen to this whilst they're walking or whatever, but most people are trapped at a phone or a computer all day.
Yeah,
like it seems to me like it's becoming like the issue for modern times.
Yeah, I think that people always talk, I mean, not always, maybe in my world I'm going to say always, but you hear people talk about text neck or looking down at your phone all the time. But before we had phones, we had newspapers and books. Like, we're always looking down. Before we had that, we were doing other things. I think it's just the duration of what you do it. There's no bad way to sit. You can sit like a prawn, like this. But if I sat there for 8 hours, I'd get sore. But if I had the most perfect posture with the 90 degrees and my screen at the right height and my mouse at the right whatever, and all this like ergonomic assessment that they do. If I sat there for 8 hours, I'd probably get sore. So it's probably the 8 hours. It's not
Dose
posture.
again.
Dosage,
Dose.
exactly.
It's the dose.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
So then you look at, I think another thing with posture is it's actually really closely related to our mood. If you see someone walking down the street like this, you're probably going to say they're sad, not that they've got a bad posture. So posture has a lot to do with our mood. If someone's really confident, chest out, walking into a room, you're going to say that they're happy and confident and whatever. They're not. It's not that they've got good posture. Like, I don't know. Some people have really narrowed or really, I think posture has been given too much clout.
Yeah, I just remember seeing last year research. There's been a lot of research done around. There's actually no correlation between bad posture and injury in the gym.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Again, so if you think about the body being adaptable, any stress we put it under, if the dose is right or the load management is right, we can adapt to it, right? So if you have a really terrible deadlift technique, but you start light and work your way up, you can probably adapt to that and be safe.
Yeah.
Where posture in the gym becomes important, I think, is when you're doing like a 1 rep max or you're powerlifting, you're trying to optimize biomechanical vectors, whatever. Like, you're trying to use the biggest muscles in the best way. That's when it's important. But for your like average Joe who's in the gym and they're deadlifting because they want to be able to pick up the washing, it's not as important. I think that if you're able to progress the load in any way, you can probably get pretty good at it.
That's interesting. I saw a pretty well-known guy on Instagram who's a doctor. He talks about all the benefits of exercise. And I saw him doing some Romanian deadlifts, and he was rounding his back. And I went straight to the comments section.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe he's just building a Jefferson curl into his Romanian deadlift. Like, there's a few grey areas in exercise prescription and tech, creating technique. So it's an interesting point.
I think when sorry, just quick. I think when
you go.
When I first kind of got into osteo, I was like a posture. I'm not like, no, I'm not going to say Nazi, but like I was really anal on posture in the gym.
Yeah.
And like there's been times where I was really close to going and saying, hey, you're lifting things wrong. And then the more I've learned about pain and the body, the more I'm like, they weren't lifting things wrong. It was just different. What if they were trying to train that position? Like, who knows? Yeah. We don't know people's stories or what they're trying to do. So thank God I didn't go up and say it.
So do you treat general population or do you have specific?
Yeah, general pop. Yeah.
Okay. So I always wanted to ask this to a physio or someone, an osteo or chiro. Do you see in your week more people with training injuries or presentations, if that's the right word, or more people that are there because they're not training, because they're not moving their body? What gives you more business? Does the gym and exercise and sport give you more work, or does the inactive body give you more work? I think that's a good question, that one.
That's a good question. I think it would be purely anecdotal. Like, I don't know what the evidence is in the literature, but I would say that on a Monday, I see more sporting injuries. All the weekend warriors, we seem to be busy on a Monday with more rolled ankles, potential ACLs, all that kind of stuff, strains, even overload injuries like tendinopathies and stuff like that. But throughout the week, you get more of those posturals. Been sitting for too long on me counting. I drive a desk and I've got a sore upper back. I would probably say those clients bring us in more revenue because they don't really want to change their life. They don't want to move as much. So we see them a lot more, like they're probably the ones that I would see 4 to 6 weekly because they're just not going to move as much and they're pretty happy to just pay the money to make themselves feel better with some manual therapy. They can be frustrating for the practitioner, but it's kind of like the bread and butter of an osteo, because if they admit it and go, I'm not going to do that, I've got to work and I'm not going to use a stand-up desk, or I'm too busy with my kids to get to any exercise, then I say, oh, well, you may as well come and feel good while you can. And I'd rather give that than go down the road to someone else. If I go, oh, you need to do this and don't come back until you have, I'd rather give the manual therapy, make them feel good and give them good advice rather than them going to see someone else who might give them not as good advice.
Yeah. So I was just thinking, so my youngest son plays a good level of soccer, and if they get injured, they have to go and see the club physio, a company that sponsors the club, which is a bit of a scam, but let's not worry about that for now. So if one of the boys, because they're 15, 16, pulls up with a sore knee or a sore calf or anything, I think it is pretty standard that you just go see the physio. The osteopath is a really good kind of similar alternative, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Any of that kind of sporting injury or pain or anything like that, and I would say my type of osteo that I do, kind of more direct, more sports focused, can definitely help. Well, exercise focused can do that. There are that stream of osteo that's like cranial sacral. So if you're going with a sore knee and you see them, they're going to do some really gentle techniques with your head, and which I don't subscribe to. So they're probably not the ones that you'd see for a sporting injury, but most of the time, 99% of the osteos or 90% of the osteos would be able to deal with that pretty easily. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But I'm sure there's physios that are the same. Like, it just goes both ways. You just got to find someone you trust, regardless of their discipline, who you don't think are trying to rip you off.
That's always important too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like from sort of gathering your approach with a lot of this is movement, and which I love. I'm big on that. As I was introduced, the most flexible man. Not sure that's true. I'm sure Wade's catching up. But I was wondering, sort of with treatment with that, how you would prescribe, just roughly how you would prescribe that and how you'd incorporate that, say, into a recovery of a lower back. What do you?
Yeah.
How do you incorporate that into it rather than saying, the usual that you might hear from other people, go home and stretch?
Yeah. So I say to my clients who have a hot low back, pretty sore low back, particularly if they're not having any real sciatic or like neurological symptoms down their leg, there's kind of two ways you can approach it. So we take them through those movements. So for our low back, it'll be flexion, extension, side bending both ways and rotating both ways.
Yeah.
And then you can go, okay, you've got 2 that are really sore, 4 that aren't as sore. So it's a good way to kind of judge how they're tracking over the next 4 weeks or however long it takes them. And go, flexion and extension is really sore, but the other 4 are okay. So then there's kind of like 2 schools of thought, and I kind of give them both to the client and see what they want to do. One school of thought is to push into the 2 that are really painful to prove to yourself that you don't need to be protected in those ranges. So you're pushing yourself into pain to prove to yourself that you're okay. The other school of thought or ideas around rehab that I have is you do the 4 that feel good to calm down the system. There's no right way to do it. There is a point where you're going to have to push into flexion and extension. But if someone's really, really anxious and nervous about their pain and they're worried that they're not going to be able to live their life, I'd probably go with the safety, do the 4 safe movements that aren't too painful, because at least we're getting movement into the back anyway, and we're not pushing them too hard. But if I see someone probably like me, who's pretty keen to kind of get back to things and they're not worried about their pain, they're just in a bit of discomfort, I'll be like, all right, let's see how we go pushing into the pain. But it's different for everyone. Yeah. So in terms of prescription, I don't really have like you have this presentation, do this. It's more like, you hurt yourself squatting, let's just regress squatting into a supported squat, or I call them door handle squats, where you hold onto something in front of you and squat down like the squat rack or something. So let's just regress it all the way down until that exact movement that hurt you didn't hurt, and let's do that and build from there. That's a nice way for some people, because they're like, this guy's listened to me. It's not just like, you need to do dead bugs, TA, like transverse abdominis, tensors, and something else for everything. It's like, this person's listening to me. It's specific to me, and they're more likely to do it, I think, then as well.
And that's what I was going to come back with you, that's the better approach, because they're then more likely to actually go and do it, which is probably one thing you hear or see a lot. You give them something to do and they're not actually going to go and do it. We see it a lot in the gym. So finding that approach, the easiest way for them to actually take it on board, it's good to hear.
Yeah, I think that we learn at uni, it's something like 8% of clients do their exercises that you prescribe.
Wow.
So
8%.
So what we try and do, what I try and do is, I don't know if you guys have ever read that Atomic Habits, that book. He talks about habit stacking. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can get it on the audio book.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. But he talks about habit stacking. So I'll give them one exercise and I'll say, do you boil the kettle at home? or something like that. And they'll go, yeah, I do it every day. I'm like, sweet. Every time you turn on the kettle, that's when I want you to do the exercise. Because that is just like taking away as many barriers as you can for them to do it.
Very simple. Yeah.
Yeah. And try and keep it simple. If you give them 10 exercises, they'll get selection amnesia and do none of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so you just give them 1, maybe 2. And even 2 sometimes is too many. And that's not because they're bad people or they're not listening or they don't want to get better. It's just rehab is a dark, boring place and lonely.
So in that interview process, when you first meet someone, are you trying to identify how cautious they are and how much fear they have around their injury when you're then, I guess you sort of just summed it up before, like.
Yeah, definitely trying to work on, it's called like kinesiophobia, like how worried they are about moving, and what the pain means to them, you know. That's a huge part of the way I've changed from when I first graduated osteo into this master's, is like trying to find the emotional connection is really, really important. So what's it stopping them from doing is such a, and same with PTs and stuff, like you should all, I think anyone in the movement space or health industry should be doing that when you're treating people in pain.
Yeah.
Is like, what is it actually stopping you from doing? For some people, it'll be running a marathon. For some people, it'll be having a coffee with their grandma on a Saturday. It doesn't matter what it is. If you can find that emotional connection, you can connect with them and actually help them. I think that's kind of cool.
Well, I think this is the opportune time to ask this question now. For that person listening that is maybe new to exercise, it's a matter of time before some form of an injury, whether it's a bit of a sore wrist or you've got a slight strain somewhere. Sure, it's a loaded question. Should you keep moving? Should you keep turning up to the gym or the club, particularly as a trainer there to help? But I think us 3 coaches, trainers would quickly give you the yes, keep moving. But can you give someone some comfort in why we would say, yes, it's still safe to come in and move?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, first of all, I would say that the gym is probably the safest place to do any movement, right? It's so regimented. You can choose the exact weight, you can choose the exact exercise, and everything's set up perfectly. So people go, oh, I don't want to go to the gym because I don't want to hurt myself. But that is like the perfect place to try and move, because you've got someone watching you. In your guys' case, you've got someone watching you. You can regress or progress. The weight is, say with a deadlift, the weight is even on both sides. It's a perfectly straight bar. Like, you can make it so regimented and so safe. Where, like, if you're picking up the washing or picking up something, a cement bag that moves at work, that's way more random. It's way more random. So I think the gym is the perfect place to, when you are sore, to go and try and move. I think I talk to my clients about, I'm happy for them to try anything, do anything. A big quote that I say to people is to be really curious with your pain. Like, what can you do? What can't you do? How does your body react to whatever that movement is or whatever it is? So be really curious. Get in the gym and try things. If you can't do a bicep curl, try something different. Doesn't matter.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
That curious thing, just having my own injuries, and just working out, how do I work around this? That hurts when I do it that way. I'll just like turn my palm up a bit more and try, like whatever I might be doing, chin ups, and go, why does that hurt my elbow? And you just experiment and you're curious about the pain. And you just keep working your way through it. And I don't know, but the more you train, the more you work that out yourself, I suppose. But I like that word, curious.
Yeah, and because you can train so many different things, like you just go, oh, that's a bit pissed off today or sore today. That's okay. I'm going to train something else. So we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You're still training, right? You're still doing something. We know. I say to all my clients all the time, we don't have a fountain of youth, right? Like, Father Time gets everyone, but the closest thing we do have is consistent exercise and movement. We know that keeps things healthy and all that kind of stuff. So even if your elbow's sore and you can't do a pull-up, just go and train all legs. It's better than nothing.
Yeah.
And it might not be what your program says, but you're still getting a good workout in.
Yeah,
for sure. So I kind of say though, like if you go into a movement and it stays pissed or really irritated for 2 days afterwards, it's probably too much. So that's probably a good guide. If you go and during the exercise, it's a bit sore, but not too bad, and then it settles down over that day and it's not too bad the next morning, or it's back to baseline by the next morning, great, good to go. If it's really irritated and it stays irritated for a few days, it's probably too much load.
Yeah.
I think a good thing to take out what you're saying and the way you're saying it, probably more so, is to test it out and be curious, as you said, but do it through your own movement. Don't go, oh, I've got a sore elbow, Google, oh, I've got this, test it yourself, test your body out. Obviously do it within range and motion that you can do. If you can't do something, don't do it. But I think it's important to highlight that that we're talking about doing it and trying it out yourself.
Yeah, and then when do you seek a professional help? I would say if you're really worried about it, so you feel scared about it, you're really worried about it, and you need reassurance, or things are progressively getting worse.
Yeah.
So if your pain's really high, you're really worried about it, and you progress, and it's getting worse, then sure, go and seek someone. But God, if I'm probably the worst proponent for it, is that I think, this will probably get better on its own. I just need to keep moving and keep doing things. But I know the red flag as well. So I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't.
Bit of inside information.
Yeah.
But that's probably a guy thing too, right? We're all like, it'll be all right.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Like when I was in Mackay, I'd see these coal miners who just like had the most hectic back pain for months working underground, and then they come and see me. I said, well, why didn't you come in early? You've been sore for so long. They just go, I don't know. I was fishing. I was drinking. I was whatever. I was busy. Yeah.
Where so you obviously do a bit of running. Where are you kind of sit with foam rolling, stretching afterwards for recovery? What's your theories around that?
Yeah, I think that all those recovery things. So I'm going to lump massage into that too. Foam rolling, ice baths, sauna, recovery, stretching. The list goes on and on. They're all great if they make you feel good. But if you're doing it and it's sore and it doesn't make you feel better, there's no point doing it. It's not like you're missing out on anything. So try them all, and if they help, use them. But I think the three biggest things for recovery is just, I'm going to say maybe 4. Load management. So progressing your load. If you're doing too much too quickly, you'll get sore. Eating enough food and eating healthily, nutrient-dense food, recovering, so getting enough calories in, rehydrating yourself, and the big one, sleep, right? So if you're not doing those 4 kind of things and you're like, but I'm foam rolling, it's like, I don't know, there would be an analogy there that I can't think of, but it's not.
Throwing
it's
rice
like
at an elephant.
There you go. It's like throwing rice at an elephant.
You're majoring in the minor. That's majoring in the minor. You're literally focusing on one small thing that isn't going to make all the difference, and ignoring the 4 things, as you've just stated, that will make a big difference. Majoring in the minor, you see it all the time, unfortunately.
Yeah. So people aren't sleeping well, but they're training really hard, and they keep coming in and telling me I'm really, really sore. It's like, okay, well, you can keep foam rolling and getting ease massages and getting cracked, and that'll make you feel good, of course, but it's just like, not moving the needle as much as maybe what we could.
Yeah.
So I'm not against them. I just think
when a question about trying to build bone density through impact training. So I think that's got to be another benefit of barefoot shoes. If you're doing some box jumps off the box onto the harder ground, start low and build the dose as you get more conditioned.
Yeah.
Always wondered, that's going to help build bone density. Would it just build the bone density, obviously, in your feet and in your legs, but does that help like all through the bones in your whole body?
Yeah, it does. So like any axial load like that, so like landing, shock up through your legs into your low back, sacrum, pelvis, that'll help that for sure. And that's kind of where they worry about bone density, is in the load-bearing bones. So feet, tibia, femur, pelvis, low back, all the way up through our spine. Osteoporosis or like bone or lack of bone density is important all over, but it seems to be that people get in trouble when their femur is really weak, or their tibia is really weak, or their hips are really weak, or whatever, because they're load-bearing and they're more likely to fracture. So as particularly middle-aged elderly women, because of menopause and the change in hormones, it lowers our bone density anyway. So load-bearing, shock, and lifting heavy things are really important important for everyone, but particularly that age group.
I've seen that spoken about a lot more lately, not only bone density, lift weights, lift heavy, but shock, jumping, and a lot of those women don't want to jump for obvious reasons, other reasons, but if we find a safe way to do it, and like we said, start slow, it's something I've incorporated into the club much more over the last few years, because it's become another thing, not just load bearing and weight work and resistance work. It's a lot of shock stuff too, which is
and
good.
it doesn't have to be jumping or landing. You could even just start people off with stamping, stepping hard.
Yep.
That's shock as well. And a lot of people over the age of 20 don't run, jump, be athletic. Like, they stop playing sports.
Yep.
And I'm going to say it again, particularly women are more likely to do that. But men as well, but particularly women, they stop jumping. So then when you get them to slam on the ground, it's like a whole new sensation. They feel it all the way up through their body because they're not used to it. But that's what we want. That's perfect to train it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why boxing's great. One of the reasons I love boxing.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you got any really surprising stories from your practice? People you thought had no chance, initially, big recoveries?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got my piece de resistance client that I have her. She was like early 40-year-old woman who came to me with hip pain, and she was seeing the hip physio in Melbourne. He worked for a hip specific clinic, and she'd had hip pain on and off for years that flared up seemingly randomly, had big flare-ups to the point where she couldn't get out of bed, couldn't work. It affected it. She ended up divorcing her partner. It affected that. She couldn't have sex. She couldn't work, all of this stuff. And it was seemingly random. She'd have a flare-up for no reason, calm down. And she was seeing this hip physio who had put her on the list to get a hip replacement because even though the images showed that she didn't have that terrible a hip joint. And she'd had a history of some trauma as well, so domestic violence and a few other things, anorexia, a few other kind of mental health things and trauma-related things. And she had a really, really hectic hip, to the point where she couldn't move. And we probably haven't gone quite into the chronic pain side of it yet, but essentially what I discussed with her was that pain is more of a protective mechanism rather than a reaction to damage, because she felt like every time she had a flare-up of it was her bones grinding together and her hip falling apart, and it felt like dislocating, when that's a really scary thought, and that would wind up our whole system to make us feel more pain. So I probably saw her 17 times over 6 months. So it's quite a big investment for her, really. But we worked together for a long time talking around how we reframe what pain is to us and what it means to us. And then how do we slowly integrate pacing and load back in so she can get back to her life. So over 6 months, she went from being bedridden every fortnight to a month to not having a flare up, back walking probably 20,000 steps. She loved walking, back in the gym, back working. So, and that wasn't because of what I did with my hands or anything like that. It's more about education, load management, and all that kind of reframing of her pain has been really important. So instead of her now thinking that every time she feels pain, it's her hip dislocating or her bones grinding, it's her system telling her to be careful. So it's a big protective mechanism. And then that's way nicer feeling than feeling like your bones are falling apart, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's
she was
awesome
mindset.
That's creating a positive mindset about how you accepting your pain and what it means, and understanding it a lot better. That's good. Yeah. That's really good.
I think it was probably one of the things I'd written down is that pain, chronic pain in particular, is and acute, but let's go chronic, is an output of many, many inputs. So what I mean by that is that pain is the perception of pain is what we feel, but the input isn't simply just because of tissue damage. So it's got a lot to do with previous trauma, how much we're sleeping, how much we're drinking, our thoughts around it, all these other inputs, and the output is pain. I think that's a nicer way to think of it than just, I have 5 out of 10 pain, so I must have 5 out of 10 damage. Or I have 10 out of 10 pain, I must have 10 out of 10 damage. But I think we could probably talk about this for 3 hours. But I think it's a really nice thought is that when I do feel pain, is it because my tissues are tearing and I'm falling apart, or is it an output from a lot of different inputs.
Yeah.
So for me, I just quickly, I have a history of hip pain. I hurt my hip playing cricket for over years, and I got to the point when I could barely walk. I was probably 21, 22, and I got told by a surgeon that I had to have surgery and blah, blah, blah. And I now have worked my way with this probably non-structural approach back to running. I've run probably 3-4 marathons. I'm training for another one. I'm in the gym doing everything. I'm playing footy. I'm playing cricket again. And I've still got those findings in my hip on a scan. And I know that if I say have a really busy week at work, I get home and my fiance is angry at me, my dog's been crook, I've had a fight with my brother, whatever, like all these other factors. And then I go and have 8 pints with my mates at the pub, don't sleep very well because of the alcohol. I'll wake up in the morning and my hip will be sore. So before I learn all of this, I would have thought, oh no, I've hurt my hip dancing at the pub or something. But now I say, oh, gee, think about what's been going on in my life. I can tell that that's all the input, and my output is a flare up of my chronic pain. So it's just a much safer thought. I go, oh, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to have a big glass of water, maybe a Barocco, go for a walk, have a coffee. I'll probably feel a bit better. Where if I didn't know that, you'd probably freak out. And that freak out, that fear is what drives more pain. It becomes this negative cycle, and you see people in pain flare-ups where they can't move. Everything's,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Chatting with our resident psychologist about doing another podcast on chronic pain. So we'll have a follow-up to this discussion pretty soon, I think.
Mate,
Absolutely.
I'll be involved. Join me in. I'm in. I could talk about chronic pain for ages. I think the more I learn about it, the more I wish I studied psychology. So even after this degree, I think I'm going to do a graduate certificate of mental health to kind of get more of that kind of side of it. Because if you think of it as an output, it's a perception and an output from the brain around what's going on in our body. So if we know more about the brain, we'll know more about pain.
Nice.
Yeah, it's funny how you're better off, even though you'd rather not have had that sore hip. All the learnings around it make you can make you so much better at what you do, and giving not just the empathy towards other people, but really understanding.
And the frustrations as well, like you feel like you have 2 or 3 good days in a row and you're like, oh, I'm out of it, and then something happens and you have a big flare up, and just so frustrating. Sometimes it's seemingly meaningless. Like you have this flare up for no reason and you think, oh, woe is me, life sucks, this is all shocking. And then so that empathy is so huge, because I think if people aren't sore and haven't had big injuries or haven't had chronic pain, it's hard for them to empathize.
It is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Kieran, where can we find you?
I've got an Instagram that I don't really use. So Kieran Jamieson Osteopathy. At the start of the year, I got off all my social medias and I'll download it once a month to post for my boss and then delete it. But you can find me there. I'll check it every now and then. But probably I work out of Glen Iris in Eastern Melbourne and Oakley in Eastern Melbourne. So Equilibrium Sports and Spinal Clinic and Oakley Osteopathy. I'm sure maybe in your podcast notes you can put my email or something, one of my work emails.
Yeah, out there.
Yeah. Well, I'll put all of that in the show notes. You don't have to be on Instagram. People can find your stuff and then Google you, or they'll find you and go and see Kieran and get your stuff sorted.
Yeah, I think my plug would be, if you've seen practitioners who have done lots of manual therapy and even rehab and it hasn't worked and you're still really sore, then it's probably worth trying something different. So come and talk to someone like me, or find a pain-informed practitioner. They'll tell you on their website if they're pain-informed. Not just treating chronic pain, but have a look at what they've studied. So they've done courses in chronic pain. And have someone that listens to you. That would be, and he's curious about you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well said.
Thanks a lot, Kieran. That's been fantastic. That hour's flown by.
It has.
Hasn't it?
Amazingly, and maybe hopefully we'll get you on for another chronic pain, and when we have that conversation, maybe we'll get a couple of points of view, physical, mental. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd love that.
All right, thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Kieran.
Leave it there. As we said, all Kieran's information will be in the show notes, so check him out. And you can follow the podcast on Between Sessions on Instagram, and follow Wade at EFM McGill, Mike at EFM Underdale, at EFM Westmead. We'll catch you soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Kieran.
See you guys. Cheers.
Thank you.